All right. So you did the thing that every man wants to do, which is make a ton of money at a very young age. And I remember you telling me you did it and it wasn't what you thought it was. Can you walk me through like how you got there and then also the moment of, oh shit, this, I don't feel better. I don't feel good. What was that whole process like for you?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, so by the time I was 27, I had 3 businesses turning over $2.5 million a year. I had, a team of upwards of 30 people working for me. And that the monetary success started when I was 24 as a real estate agent, where I, was making close to $1 million a year in gross commission. And so as a young 24-year-old, I thought it was amazing. By the time I got to 27 and, the responsibility of 3 businesses was kind of weighing on me, I was still spending like I was 24, and it had been, 3 or 4 years of this kind of behavior, literally doing the thing that, like you said, most men think is success, like bottle service at clubs, spending 20 grand in a week in Vegas, like just some crazy stories I could tell you. Yeah, I realized that I was pretty much dead and empty on the inside at 27. And I think the moment that I had the realization that, oh shit, this is not working for me, was when I was in a hotel room alone. I think in Sydney, I just attended some kind of conference, and I couldn't find any substances from anyone, any drugs, and so I crushed up a cold and flu tablet. Probably not a good one either. You can get the good ones and the not so good ones. I crushed that up and snorted it, and was trying to get high. And that was definitely a low moment. It's stuck in my memory as like, what the fuck was I doing? But I was so unhappy. And what I realized in the process of, reflection, actually, I'm 35 now, so that was 8 years ago, is it wasn't the money, but it was who I became in order to get the money.
Okay.
Who I became and what I did in order to get the money. That was what created so much disharmony in my life. In a way, I think I had a midlife crisis at 27. Because a midlife crisis, typically for like our parents' generation, right, is they get to 50, 55, and they're like, oh my God, I've been working for the same company for the last 25 years. I haven't lived the way I wanted to, and I had always had this dream of doing this thing. What the fuck am I doing with my life? And then they go out and they typically buy the Harley Davidson and, whatever else, right?
Yellow Corvette.
Yeah, exactly. Corvette, exactly. I wanted to get one recently, but someone told me it was a midlife crisis car, so I didn't get it. So yeah, I basically had a midlife crisis at 27. Yeah.
Wow. So you said the money, who you became to make the money was where you felt the most disconnect. So did the money just like exacerbate the person that you became, and the money was kind of fueling more of this like bad person? What was that experience like?
Yeah, that's a great question. What I think is that each of us came here with a specific blueprint that our soul has, that it's supposed to follow. And that was a part of my soul's blueprint, but it was not the ultimate blueprint for my soul. And so, as a 24-year-old real estate agent, I was willing to do whatever it took to experience success. I actually told myself in that first year, if I don't make $1 million, I'm a failure. And it worked, right? It worked. I got so much leverage on myself. I put everything, all my chips were on that number. And as a consequence, I deprioritized and sacrificed almost everything else in order to get that one thing. And that is what I think left me feeling most empty. And then also there's kind of the recognition that, real estate is not what I'm supposed to be doing now in this lifetime. And I think I became a version of me that I thought people would like, so that I could attract success, so that people would sign with me. So, I would attract clients, so that women would want to be with me, so that I could make money. It was all like conforming to this idea of who I thought I needed to be. And therefore, when I actually got the money, all I wanted to do was escape my reality, because I didn't feel in harmony and in alignment in it. And so that's what I was doing, was trying to escape reality, trying to escape myself, or the me that I was being in that experience. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I think we probably see that a lot in today's content creators, where they build this online identity. Maybe it kind of conforms over time to whatever one's getting the most views, the most likes.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, a year later, they're making a bunch of money, but it's like, this isn't me. But I can't be me, because the world has said this other version is what I get paid for.
Right.
And then we go through this whole like existential crisis of like, wait, but I want to be me again. And I don't want to be this person. And it kind of sounds like that's what you went through pre-social media and more of, in your day-to-day life.
Yeah, absolutely. It was 100% that. It was the recognition of that moment, snorting the cold and flu tablets, then being like, this is not working for me. And then starting to ask different questions like, well, if this isn't it, what is it? Because I thought that this was it. I thought that this was the thing that was going to make me super happy, because I would be able to get women and have money, like that's, let's just put it on the table, right? Like that's kind of taught to us unknowingly from society. And even though you can say like, my parents never taught me that and things like that, there is this culture in society that exists where jacked dudes with money get women. And when you're a young man with testosterone, you think that that's the goal. That's probably another topic, is like making women the goal in a sense. It really fucked me up. But yeah, I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah. So if you went back to like when you were 24, and there's some 24-year-old listening right now who thinks that I want to get jacked, make money so I can get women, which to your point is the goal of a lot of men. It's just like, oh, there's this beautiful woman and I want to be able to attract her. And I think these are the ways to do it. What would you do differently as a 24-year-old to still achieve success, whether it be financially or interpersonally? But what would you do different from a personal level that would have helped you kind of achieve the same goals, but while staying super aligned with who you are?
I wouldn't do anything differently. The only thing I would change is the awareness that this particular game is not the game that I should be playing forever. So I'm glad that I did it, because I got it out of my system. There are men our age that still are trying to play that game and failing or succeeding, but like still kind of like dead on the inside, stuck in their ego. So yeah, I think almost in a way it's a net, for me at least, I have to learn things through experience, and that was a necessary rites of passage in a sense. The only thing I would do differently is the awareness of, hey, this isn't a game that you're going to play forever, so don't expect it to be everything. And therefore, I think I would have maybe made slightly better decisions financially. Instead of just literally spending everything I was making, I might have been putting some away, because like, hey, you're not going to want to do this in 3 years' time, because this is a very short-term game. But hindsight's a beautiful thing. Yeah. What I just said, I think, is a statement that comes from a lot of wisdom and maturity that most 24-year-olds do not have. Some that we know do, but I did not.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too, is I love this framing of understanding the game that you're playing. I think that's a very important thing for all of us to understand in life. The Simon Sinek has the infinite game kind of philosophy, but I do think all of life is a game, and we're trying to figure out what game do we want to play? And so after going through this game of a lot of money in a very short period of time, is it a game worth playing? But if you understood the rules. So understanding the rules of, I'm going to start this game, it's going to have an end time of 2 years, and I'm going to make all the money I can in those 2 years. And I know that this game is going to end, so I'm going to do things differently. I'm going to save money, I'm going to invest it, I'm going to do whatever, because I know it's setting up my next game. If you knew that was the game you were going to play, would you advise somebody to play it?
Oh, that's a great question. I have a feeling that most people with that level of awareness are not going to want to play that game, because if you are really attuned to what it is that you really want, unless the money is serving that ultimate goal in some way, why wouldn't you just go for the ultimate goal now? That's a very individual question. I think what I would do if I could go back in time, like really, obviously I wouldn't change anything. I think if I was 21, 22, 23, I would absolutely just like crush it for a couple of years, not spend a cent, and invest it really well. Because if I'd done that, I would have an exorbitant amount of money right now. But like I said, hindsight's a wonderful thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I love that. I mean, I think it's a smart, to your point, like if you're self-aware and you're attuned to like what you're trying to accomplish with this game, it can actually be really beneficial, I would assume, if you do it the right way. If you play the right game.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
What would you do?
I think I would play the game.
Yeah.
Going back, I think I would play the game. I would, and have really strict rules around the game and understand what game I'm actually playing. So very, very similar, aligned to you. And, when you talk to a lot of or just hear a lot of very wealthy people speak, they all say like money doesn't actually solve any of your problems. Everybody says it. I do think it would be really interesting for everybody to have money at some point in their life. I think it would be a really interesting, let's call it experience or just life experience, just to understand like this isn't the thing that I actually want to chase. Because like, to your point, you have to do something to understand it.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of us, we have to make a bunch of money to understand it's actually not that relevant.
Yeah. I disagree with that.
Okay.
Not what you just said. I disagree with the statement of like that a lot of wealthy people make, saying money doesn't solve your problems, because that's not true. The majority of the population is stuck in survival, whether it be financial survival, nervous system survival, and what money gave me at a young age was the space. What it's given me, actually, from 24 really, is the space to understand myself more, because I haven't had to show up to a job and constantly work. Like, for instance, when I went through a separation with my son's mother, that was like really hard, really horrible. I didn't have to work, so I could actually heal through it. I actually like spent time going to retreats, taking psychedelics, getting therapy, and entrenching myself in the healing process. And so, I think having an amount of money definitely will serve most people, because of the lessons that you're going to get from that experience, like you said. And that I think is part of a bigger conversation, actually, which is like, what I think we're actually on Earth to do and experience, and what I think AI is going to help us as humans do, is step fully out of survival and into a state of greater abundance. Because if all the world's problems can be solved by an intelligence greater than us, most of the problems that we have, it actually just creates space for us to do what we actually want to do. How are we supposed to spend our time? That's really That's really the question most of us are asking ourselves on an unconscious level every day when we wake up is, how do I want to spend my time today? And most of us are just bought into a system that's been sort of set up for us that we think we need to do this and this and this. But the truth is that's a whole matrix that has been created, that we've co-created and keep co-creating as well. So I just think, with AI getting greater in its capacity, intelligence, speed, efficiency, it's requiring humans to be much better creative thinkers and critical thinkers, because the people who can ask the best questions right now are the ones who can get the best results through AI. And it's also encouraging us to have more space to pursue things like art and passions and joy and the things that we actually like in my opinion are here to do. We're here to be creators. So that's totally off topic, but
there is no topic. There is no topic. So, okay, I think this is kind of the conversation that I should say a lot of people, this is the conversation that I'm curious about is, okay, if all of a sudden all of these humans have more space in their life to do the things that they love or that bring them joy or happiness, I don't know if we're ready for it. I don't know if we as a society know what we would do with all that space. I mean, we've historically filled it with TV and video games and all these other things. It's like, what do you think? Like what do you think we need to do in order to understand how we should use that space that we're now given?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great point that you make. I think you're right that most people would not know what to do with that space, and but that goes back to, I think everyone should probably have $1 million at least once, because, or even 500,000, even 300,000, in cash.
I mean, it's what, like,
right.
I mean, I don't know the number, but it's an astronomical amount of the world doesn't have more than, I think, like $5,000 in the bank.
Right. Okay.
Which is very frightening.
Sure. Yep.
Yeah.
So because it actually, having more money, making money at a young age, creating space for myself, every business owner thinks that that's what they're shooting for, is like, I want to win back my time. And you see these cycles with entrepreneurs where they win back their time and then they end up being busy with something else again. And that's their nervous system wired towards what's familiar, which is being busy and filling their schedule with things. So I was confronted by, this space at 27 to 29. 27 was really the first sort of time I started to take more space from my business. By 30, I'd sold my real estate companies and didn't have to work. And yeah, I was confronted with like, oh shit, if I'm not just waking up and doing this thing that I thought I needed to do every day to impress people and make money because I think that that's what success is, what the fuck do I do? And who am I? Who am I? Because I've identified with being in real estate, or just being successful in a career. And that's what I derived my worth from. And so you're right. I think the world is not ready for it in a way, but I think it's going to be a beautiful forced awakening of sorts. For humanity, and we'll get to see what we all do with it very soon. I think
very soon. It changes so fast.
Yeah. And it's an interesting point though, because I do wonder whether the part of most people that are not ready for that level of abundance or space or capacity to really tune into who they really are at their core. I do wonder whether that will be the thing that will actually prevent this technology being used at the capacity and scale that it really could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see it a lot with even people who retire from work. You retire from work and then your day's just empty and you have nothing to do that fills you in. There's numbers out there. I don't know what they are, but it's like if you don't have a job, your mental health declines quite quickly. And so if we take what people experience when they retire, which is I don't have to work anymore. Now what do I do? What's my purpose? Why am I actually here?
Yeah.
And we're not doing it when we're 65 and now we're doing it when we're 35 or 45. Now you're just like, oh shit. Like we're speeding that up a lot. And That's a long time to have a lot of space. And it's going to be a matter of how do we navigate that? How do we feel? Because I was just talking about this morning where I've asked people before, what makes you happy? What brings you joy? The amount of people that have no clue what makes them happy is astonishing and scary. And it's also very sad. And so on that, because you've done a lot of inner work and you've done a lot of stuff to better understand who you are. So if you were to think, if you asked somebody a question and they were like, and you asked, what brings you joy? And they're like, I don't know. What would you go through? What would be your process for understanding for yourself what made you happy? What brought you joy? What would you do?
Like if I couldn't answer that
If you
question,
couldn't answer it for yourself, what would be your process?
I mean, I've been there. I have for sure been there. I've definitely been in that place of feeling so uninspired by my life, so lost, so stuck, just questioning everything, feeling the weight of that question, actually. It feels like a lot of pressure and a big burden if you don't know how to answer it. And more so if you don't know how to answer it and you feel kind of like you have to show up to your job because you have a mortgage to pay and this and that. So it's like, and you've got kids and like, I don't have fucking time to think about that.
No time.
So it can be a difficult question to ask. I think where I would go with it is, why do I even want to answer that question? Because some people don't, and maybe don't want to, and they want to stay with that as like a blind spot. And so I would ask myself that first, and the answer would be because I actually want to feel fulfilled in my life. I want to feel more joy. I want to feel lighter. I wake up every morning feeling heavy. This is like a past version of me. And then it would be like, okay, well, what do you dream of? What do you dream of? What are you inspired by? What are the things that you notice yourself being pulled towards, or the people that you kind of look up to? How are they living? What are those things that inspire you? Because often if we're in that place of sort of being stuck, often what truly will bring us the most joy is kind of like just a little bit beyond what we're allowing ourselves in our life. And so for me, going back to, 27-year-old me having the epiphany of like, why the fuck am I doing all of this? The starting point was, I've sacrificed every relationship in my life, friends, families, significant others, to attain this goal. I really want to have some friends, And it was as simple as starting there and calling my dad and my mum more regularly and starting to build a better relationship with them and starting to invest in simply learning how to be a friend to people, learning how to have friendship in my life. I know that sounds crazy. I was probably like mildly autistic or something, honestly. Like full respect to anyone who actually is and has been diagnosed, but I genuinely say that. Like I feel like I had to learn how to have those things in my life. And so that's where I would start. And for me, the question of what brings me joy has continuously led me towards being in service of other people, being present, being able to be truly present, because when we're completely distracted and our mind is racing and our nervous system's dysregulated, it's impossible to experience joy if you can't just be here now. And then, of course, psychedelics bring me joy. They also bring me lots of other things, but ultimately I've learned that I love psychedelics. I love ayahuasca. I love that process. I love even the hard parts. I just love it. And I love music, and there's lots of other things I love too. But yeah, so there's so many ways to answer that question. And I think you can always start by trying to write a list. Write a list of 50 things that bring you joy. And if you get to 15 and you feel stuck, sit there until you can come up with another 35. Sometimes the first time we really start inquiring about these things is it's hard to answer because we're asking our brain to think about something in a way that's not done before.
Yeah. I love that. Just sit down and make a list. It's kind of like when you do gratitude. It's just like, just make a list. And you're like, wow, I'm actually grateful for a lot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And maybe, the first time I ever did gratitude, honestly, I was like, yeah, I'm grateful for this. I'm grateful for my apartment. I couldn't feel it in my body, but I was practicing. I was sort of teasing it out of myself. I didn't know how to feel like full gratitude at that time. I don't know if that sounds crazy or not, but for me, I was so stuck in my head that I needed to start there and then slowly tune into what the feeling was. So, with joy, going back to that, it's like, all right, if you can get your list of 5, 10, 15, 50 things, then you start to actually just like, all right, how do I feel in my body when I feel joy? What does that sensation feel like? Because joy is a feeling. It's not a thinking. And I believe that freedom within comes when we start to tune into our sensations, our feelings, and like really let that expand. Because feeling more joy comes back to feeling the sensation of joy in your body, right?
Yeah. Align. It's the same thing with like the gratitude, where if you just are saying it but you don't embody it and you don't feel it, it just doesn't land the same. And I know for me, I used to have a lot of I would call it trauma or stigma or whatever we want to call it around money. And just like this, I shouldn't call it trauma or stigma. I had an unhealthy relationship with money. I got it and I held it. And I just grabbed it and I never wanted to let any of it go, which, is what it is.
We should have partnered up.
We'd been great. We'd been so partners. Good. But one thing tying that to joy was when I understood the things in my life that truly brought me joy, the amount of money I will spend on those things feels limitless. Because what it taught me was I will spend all my money on those things and I don't spend any money on anything else. So when I'm spending money, I'm like, oh, it's because it brings me joy. And I don't have to question it. Yeah. And so it healed a lot of my relationship with money because I knew why every dollar was coming in or coming out, and I knew its purpose. And so that was a very healing thing for me around money was, does it bring me joy? Does spending this money bring me joy? And it often does. And that was a lot for me.
I love that.
Yeah. What's been your relationship like with money now that you made it? Sounds like you were really good at spending it. I'm assuming you're better at kind of that relationship with money now. Just how do you think about money now? How do you think about spending it? How do you think about making it? How do you just define your relationship with it?
Yeah, for sure. Full transparency, I had an accountability call with a pod of guys that I'm in with a program called GoBundance. And that over the last 2 weeks was like, hey, I'm spending too much money right now. Like I need help. But the thing is, I haven't spent all my money and I haven't gone into excessive debt like I used to. It's just like I'm catching this small pattern of like, I'm just spending a little bit too much money, more than what I want to, and I want to redirect it towards these things. Here's how I'm holding myself accountable. And I also would like you to hold me accountable. Thank you very much. So, that pattern is still something that I have to be aware of and have to work with. My journey with money has been quite an interesting one. When I first opened so first 2 years as a real estate agent, year one, $915,000 in gross commission income. Year two, $1.1 million. For those people listening, I didn't get all of that. Some of it goes to the agency that I was working for. Then I got some, paid some staff.
Just like a business.
Exactly. And then year three, I opened my first real estate agency, got sued by a competitor who'd bought my previous employer's business, blew $150,000 straight away on lawyers and dealt with this whole thing. Here's me at 25 being sued by like a 50-year-old man. It was a pretty wild experience. Went into some debt because that kind of threw me off, so with the office construction and different things like that. I was about, and we were a couple months behind bills, maybe in the first 3 months, I think, in our business. I had about $400,000 that I owed to people. This is Australian dollars. So
we'll do conversions later.
It's still 400K, like in that country, it was still 400,000. But yeah, so I owed all this money And so then I was able to like, I made a lot more money, paid it all down. And, I ended up selling my two businesses for $1.1 million, two real estate companies. And then I lost a ton of money in crypto. So I still had patterns of like, oh, I want to get rich quick. Like if I put $100,000 on this thing and it 10x's, then I'm making $1 million. Like, and it just doesn't necessarily work that way. And most of crypto is gambling. Lost some money in some bad deals. So I basically burned through that $1.1 million in a few years, going through a separation and all the money I lost, which was it was a very humbling place to be, honestly, to be like, I worked for 5 years to build these businesses. This was the success that I was hanging my hat on. And now I haven't got nothing, but I've like fucked it up kind of thing. And having to rebuild from there was really humbling. I had to rebuild my existing company, Workspace Co Outsourcing, really from like basically a $500,000 a year side hustle to this,
which is a great side hustle. Let's be honest.
Yeah, it is for sure. So that speaks to my relationship with money too, right? That I have a capacity for a lot of it, and I have had a natural tendency to be able to make it easily. It comes to me effortlessly. It always has. And so when people ask me like, how did you like make all this money? I'm like, I don't know. How did you not? But how are you not doing that? Because I don't know. This is just how I'm wired. It's just a thing within me. And I guess it must just be this inherent belief system that I have that it should come to me. And I don't make it about me. At one point, I needed it so much to prove to myself that I was worthy. Then once I started getting it, I was like, of course I'm fucking worthy of this, And so I think my minimum expectation of what needs to be coming in is probably a lot higher than most people's. And therefore it just does, because, what we make space for usually comes to us. And where I'm at with it now is, orienting myself towards following my passion, which is music, and realizing that over the last, 5 or so years, while I've been building my existing business and, doing other projects on the side, I've kept putting this passion really on hold, which is actually my biggest dream, in pursuit of a bigger safety net of money. Because, once you start owning your own business and things like that, I mean, even real estate, right? Like nothing's certain. Nothing's a sure thing. So there's this kind of paradigm that I've been unwinding lately, which is if I put most of my time towards music and I, have this business operating, being run by someone else, will I be okay financially? Will it survive? Will it thrive? And what do I need to do and how do I need to show up in the world in order to make sure that I can continue to take care of my needs, my family's needs, my son's needs, and thrive whilst pursuing my dream? So, I guess that's the question that most people are asking themselves, especially musicians. And I'm grateful that I have this background and expertise in business. I really would say mastery at this point. I'm 10 years an entrepreneur in 6 months' time. That side of things definitely feels easier. So yeah, that speaks to it. I mean, I deeply know that no matter what, I'm going to be okay. I have the thing within me that, I could snap my fingers tomorrow and create something that'll make a lot of money. So if I ever need to do that, I can.
It's a wild skill set. And just the idea that the self-belief that for you, what sounds like the idea of, I'm just going to throw out a number, being able to do, $100,000 a month, like it doesn't surprise you. You're just like, oh, of course. Like, why would I not be able to make $100,000 a month? And that abundant mindset is now allowing you to pursue your passion because you feel so certain and so secure in your ability to always meet not only your basic needs, but obviously a lot more. In the whole Maslow's hierarchy, like once you have to meet your basic needs in order to kind of move up
Mm.
And so just your ability to kind of move throughout the world with this level of certainty
Mm.
makes everything easier.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's come from being from who I hang out with, I think.
Yeah.
There was definitely a point where like a million, I mean, I'm not at $1 million a month, right? So I'm like, who do I need to become in order to have that be an of course? And I don't even know that that's a question I'm really focusing on right now or asking myself, but it's interesting just to have in the back of my mind. Because there are people out there doing what I want to do, pursuing their, dream of music and also making a significant amount of money and wealth. And I just want to root in that conversation about money as well. The reason why I think that that's important to me is like what I've discovered is the more I have, the more I can give, the more I can take care of, the more choice and freedom of choice I have. And yeah, I really think in most cases, money is kind of a benchmark of how well you've been at providing some sense of value in the world to other people, and it's great. It's great to have. Like it's given me so much in my life, and I'm so grateful for it. I'm so grateful to have choice and freedom. Honestly, blessed, abundantly blessed.
Yeah, the choice and the freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had this conversation just last night with somebody where we were talking about money, and it was for me, the only reason, I shouldn't say the only reason, one of the reasons why I want to have an abundance of money and wealth is so I can provide for my partner her this just incredible life of freedom where she can be in her feminine. She can just be her without ever having to worry about money or work or anything that's just beyond anything that she doesn't want to have to. She wants to work and like have all these like, this huge company or whatever that, that's great for her. But I don't want her to have to do it.
Mm.
And to your point, like being able to provide that level of safety for her is, to me, I think is a thing that all men want to strive for. And I think in some part of us, we actually like truly want to be a provider to that capacity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So you mentioned music is now this passion, this thing that you're pursuing, that you're going after. So you obviously, it sounds like you had to shed an identity of, I'm an entrepreneur at around 30. I have these real estate companies and I'm going to sell them. Now who am I? So you kind of had to shed that identity. And then now you're stepping into a new identity, or maybe you have for a while, which is I'm a musician. What did you go through? What did you have to go through to discover that music was your next identity?
Yeah, I mean, I've been a musician my whole life. So I started playing trombone. Sorry, I started playing piano when I was like 8 or 9 at home. We had a piano. Then I started playing drums. I took, private drum lessons at 11. And then at 13, I started playing trombone and was in my high school bands like the concert band, jazz band. And then after school, I toured with an orchestra, played in a few jazz bands in jazz clubs, things like that with the trombone. And so then at about 21, it wasn't cool anymore to play trombone in these bands. It was taking up time. I wanted to make money again because that's what I thought would make me happy, be successful. And so I kind of gave it all up. And, it was maybe 4 years ago, I bought a guitar and took a couple of lessons and like learned how to strum a few chords. Didn't really take it beyond that. And it was actually 2 years ago at Burning Man where I'd just started to tune into, as I just moved to Bali and I actually stopped working that year. I think I worked like 5 hours all year, honestly.
How old were you at this point?
2 years ago, so 33.
Okay.
Yeah. It's funny, actually, my girlfriend at the time, I remember I said something to someone in front of her like, oh yeah, I probably work like 5 to 10 hours a week. She's like, no, you don't. That's a lie. Like I barely worked. So I had a lot of space and that was intentional space for me. I moved to Bali because I could cut my living expenses down to barely anything. So I was saving money. I was recapitalizing my business. I was letting that grow at the same time. And during that time, I was like, what do I really love? And it was, music had always been this thing that just kept coming back. And so I went to Burning Man 2023. And, when I was introducing myself at the camps, Burning Man is this great place where you can be anyone who you want to be. You can try on new identities. And I just started introducing myself as a musician. Oh yeah, I'm a musician and an entrepreneur. All right. I knew how to strum like 3 or 4 chords on the guitar. I could play the trombone still, but like wasn't at a high level. And I know my way around the piano. Okay. But if someone asked me to play a song on the guitar, at that point I was like, fuck. Like, I know like 2 songs, and this is like not impressive at all. So it felt like a big edge to start saying that to people. And what happened was the first night at Burning Man 2023 was a Sunday night. I went out. Me and some friends were supposed to take LSD. I was the only one that ended up taking it. Fuck them. I ended up by myself at like 4 a.m. in my RV, just like writing a song on my phone. Just like lyrics were coming out. So I just wrote it. I was like, all right. And I took my guitar out to Deep Playa, which is like, right in the middle of the desert. And I found this like art installation. It's kind of like a kid's playground thing. You climb up on ropes and sit on the platform. And I sat up there and I started to play around and try and write this song. And within a few moments, maybe 30 minutes, I don't know, some people had come and were sitting with me, listening to me. And, so there's that vulnerability of just like, I'm sort of like writing a song with the 3-4 chords I know right now, singing in front of people I've never met before. And as I was riding back into camp with my guitar, the camp leader, Gerald, was riding out. It was like 7 a.m. in the morning at this point. And he's like, yeah, that's right, Alex. Do you want to share some music tonight at our camp party? Yeah, this is in front of like 150, 200 people. And I was like, yeah, sure thing. So by me starting just to put that identity on and then being bold enough to say yes, I performed 2 songs in front of, 150, 200 people, I don't know, that night. And it wasn't amazing, but it was a start. And I was so proud of myself for getting up there. And, over the last 2 years, music's been something that's like slowly marinated. And in the last 12 months, it accelerated when I went to an ayahuasca retreat in Spain, and we drank medicine and learned songs during the day. And then we had 2 ceremonies where we actually got to play our instruments in the ceremony together. And it's just been very clear since then that that's all I've ever wanted to do. And in some way, shape or form, everything else has been, in some way, like selling myself short, because this was my biggest dream, and I didn't truly believe that I had the capacity to be successful and make it. And so I didn't pursue it. But now I'm approaching it from a place of really a need. I like who I am when I play music. I like who I get to be. I like who it's making me into. And so I like who I'm becoming in the process of it. So much different to the real estate Alex, right? Where I hated who I became in the process of building these real estate companies. And people who've known me for, 10, 20 years will attest that I think I'm clearly the lightest, happiest version of me I've ever been, because most of my days right now are spent playing music. And so that's how I started trying on that identity, and now it feels so true. Yeah. But only I would say even December last year, so we're talking like 7 months ago, it felt edgy saying I was a musician, because I still only knew like a handful of songs. I was very new learning the guitar. I've only been seriously learning it for the last 12 months now. But now I'm at a point where I'm like, I'm a fucking musician. Like,
Oh yeah.
I'm a fucking musician. I've released a song. I actually like how I sound. I like how I sing. I like how I play guitar, and I'm loving it. And there's nothing else I want to do. So yeah,
Fuck yeah. Dude, there's so much gold in there.
Yeah.
The couple of things that you said that I absolutely loved was you you said you were a musician before you were ready,
mm,
because it's that whole fake it till you make it,
mm,
but it wasn't faking it because you knew you were a musician.
mm-hmm.
It was fake because you hadn't produced any music and you
Right.
hadn't made any music, but you knew you were a musician.
Right.
So it's where like it felt edgy, but also it felt like you. And then this moment you said, I was proud of myself for getting up there and doing it, just saying yes,
Mm.
just saying yes, because there's this whole thing of like doing a thing, being able to put something out in the world that you know you suck at,
Yes.
but you know you'll get better.
Yeah.
And doing something that you know you'll suck at is so fucking scary.
Yeah.
But when we do it because we know it's part of our journey,
Yeah.
you just kind of do it. It's the same thing with like when you're building a company. They say at the first version of your product is excellent. You waited way too long to release your first product.
Right.
Like it should suck. You should hate the thing. And that's kind of like your
Yeah.
experience. Like I hate it. Like you didn't hate the music, but like it wasn't great.
Let me clarify that. I still actually have not watched the video back of that Burning Man performance because I'm like,
Can't do it.
like it's kind of cringe, like you know. But I think I'll look back at it. You know, I'm gonna watch it this weekend
Okay.
because I'm at a point now, right, where I'm seeing the results of putting myself through that cringe, and so it's like, yeah, I can look back on that with joy now. But that's 2 years, you
Yeah.
know. Yeah, I think in terms of following your passion and joy, there's a misconception that like, you know, we're just going to switch overnight and that, yeah, it's just going to happen. And for me, it's just been this constant process of tuning in and like, fuck, I was still feeling stuck like 6 months ago. All right, what do I want to do? I want to do music. I'm doing music. All right, what am I not doing music that I want to do? Fuck, I want to be playing with other people more. You know, and just recently it was like, I'm still unhappy. I'm still feeling uninspired by my life. Why is that? Because I'm not all in on music. And so I made this decision that I'm just inquired to study. I have to study at the Austin Community College in their music program to start with so I can get into UT because they have an amazing music program. So I was like, that's what I want to do. And after making that decision, I feel so like happy about everything else in my life because I'm actually on the path that I want to be on.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really just feel like life is this process of tuning in and listening to what is trying to come through us. And you spoke about identities and, you know, stepping from one identity into another. I'm honestly at a point now, truly, where I feel like I don't care who I am anymore. I do not care who I am. What matters to me is what I allow to be expressed through me. Like, yeah, that's what truly matters to me. What am I expressing? I don't care how people perceive me. I do not care what I'm supposed to be, what labels I have on me. Just like what's coming through me from God, from source that I'm allowing through. Am I kind? You know, am I allowing kindness through? Am I allowing compassion and love through? But I don't care whether people see me as a kind or compassionate person. Does that make sense?
I mean, yes. And I've never heard it explained that way.
Yeah.
But it ties a lot into what you had said, which was you like who you are when you're all in on music,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is an insanely impactful statement.
Yeah.
That a lot of us don't think enough about of when I do this thing, who am I?
Yeah.
What comes through me?
Yeah.
And that ability to be so self-aware and recognize that when I'm spending my energy doing this thing, I am the person who I've always wanted to be.
Mm-hmm. And from that place, you can't help but attract more great things, more money, more abundance, more opportunity, because, you know, life, God, universe wants to reward us for being in our truth. And that doesn't mean like being stupid with money and just like neglecting it, because that's what some people do, right? They're like, I'm going all in on music, and they just like, they don't have any strategies to build wealth or anything like that, right? We need the whole pie on the table. But yeah, that's what I believe. And that's through my, like right now, through my process and my decisions that I'm making literally in the last week and a half, I am working to overcome my own limitations and limiting beliefs that I won't be fully taken care of. I won't be wildly successful by pursuing what I truly dream of. But I just got to a point where I'm like, why am I still playing that game? Why am I denying myself a thing that I really, really deeply desire? Why would I do that? I would feel like I'll regret my life if I don't go after it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, which is a huge one. Like, I mean, who wants to live? Who wants to? I think that one of my biggest fears, and which it shouldn't be a fear because I'll be dead, but is is this idea that when you die, the life that you were supposed to live flashes before your eyes, and this idea of you left too much on the table. Like I can't remember who said it, but they said, I want to live my life where nothing was left on the table. And that is pursuing passions. That is chasing love. That is being in love. That is, you know, if it's traveling the world, if it's loving your family, if it's being a great friend. Like, how can you live your life in a way where when you die, there is nothing left on the table?
yeah.
That's a great fucking way to live a life.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. How do you think? So you mentioned limiting beliefs. When you recognize a limiting belief within you, what's your process for getting through it? For what questions do you ask yourself? How do you work through this journey of, okay, I feel this thing, and how do I now what do you do to move through it?
Yeah, me now versus me, you know, a few years ago, probably a very different process. And just for full context for, you know, everyone listening or watching, I have spent the last 8 years of my life journeying with psychedelic medicine in quite what most people would classify as excessive. And in the last 12 months, I've drank about 50 cups of ayahuasca, which has helped me substantially just change into, you know, my highest timeline and the highest version of myself. So when I experience a limitation or a limiting belief now, I don't get stuck in it because I actually know it's not true. So like I just viscerally know it's not true.
Oof. Okay.
So I feel like I'm living from a level of embodiment that is I feel like I'm living from a level of embodiment that is I know what's really true. And I know that a limiting belief is not true.
So it's just the recognition that this thing is in me and I know it's not true.
Yeah. Yeah. And so therefore taking action through that. Yeah, I wouldn't say there's been any limiting belief that I can identify in the last, 6 to 12 months that has crippled me or kept me where I'm at. So I guess the answer to that is what's happening for me is I feel like I'm really tuned into the frequency of truth and love and divinity regularly through my daily practices, through my work with ayahuasca. And that's helping me to show up in a way which is choosing what's truly meant for me. And therefore a limiting belief almost like doesn't have the space to fester up because it's irrelevant. Because I'm still gonna choose to go to school for music, even if there's a story that maybe I won't be able to put as much time into business and my finances will suffer. I don't care. That doesn't have to be true. It's not true. Like, I know it's not true. That's a story, whatever. And I'm still going to choose it anyway. And even if that happens, I'm still going to choose it. Because it's what I want.
Yeah.
So I'm willing to face that if that's what needs to happen. But how I used to deal with limiting beliefs, probably very different. I guess maybe like a lot of journaling and having to rewire my brain, build different habits around who I am. Like, how am I showing up on a daily basis that has me be a person that believes this thing about myself?
Oof. I like that question.
Yeah.
Yeah. How am I showing up that could allow for this to be true, or the thought to be true?
Yeah,
I guess.
exactly.
Is that kind of the framing?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, but I also I just like to prove these things wrong. So for instance, in my last relationship, this is a funny one. In my last relationship, there was she'd broken my trust a couple of times. There was some insecurity that I had in the relationship about how she was with other men. That's probably why the whole thing didn't work. No shade on her. It was like a dynamic pattern between both of us. But one of the very last parties we went to, there was an interaction in front of me with this man I was talking to, and she came up, and I felt like she was seeking validation from him in that moment, and I didn't like it. This was my own story, right? I brought it up with her. She was obviously like super pissed off at me, and the next day I called that guy and I asked him what his experience was, which was super embarrassing and vulnerable. But I wanted to prove myself wrong. You know, I wanted to be wrong. I was willing to be wrong. I wanted to question it because I was like, I'm not fucking right. So this voice in my head can't necessarily be true. And that same thing. And he said he didn't notice anything. And so like I was in the wrong. And he told me to get therapy. I was like, you don't know me. But anyway, we're not together anymore. So it's great. But I think the same thing goes for limiting beliefs. You know, a lot of people have limiting beliefs about, people don't like me, or I can't make money, or blah, blah, blah. Well, go out and prove that wrong. Go and ask 10 people, hey, do you like me? If they all say no, then that's actually feedback, and it's not a limiting belief. It's a truth of your reality. So you get to change that. If it's not true and everyone says yes, then great. Why are you still believing that? And how are you showing up for yourself and in each moment and every day that has you believing that? Oh, notice how you're talking to yourself. Notice that when you say, notice that you don't even like yourself. Notice that you don't like the words that come out of your mouth. Notice that when you say you're going to get up at 7 a.m., you don't, and then you hate yourself for it. Like, I think most of these things come from a place of our own behavior, and it usually starts with how we're self-abandoning, how we're self-betraying. We're not truly, truly loving ourselves. Most of the noise, I think, it disappears when you get to that place.
Yeah. I love the framing of this. It's a story, which, you know, there's always, if you talk to two people, you're likely telling two totally different stories. And so I like your framing around prove the story to not be true. And maybe through that process, the story actually does prove to be true. And you're like, okay, cool. Like, it's not a limiting belief. It's an actual truth. It's a fact.
Exactly.
Or it's a story I'm making up.
Yeah, exactly.
They're both great fucking outcomes.
Exactly.
Because now you can move through it. Now you can move beyond it.
Yeah.
But I like the idea. I love the idea of, I have a limiting belief. Let me prove it wrong.
Yeah.
Seems like a great way just to move through everything.
Yeah. There's also a great thing about that, you know, it can be a beautiful redirection. Like, let's say you go and ask 10 people, do you like me? Yes or no? And they all say no. And then you go, do I actually like myself? Like, truly, deeply? And the answer is yes. You're like, do I like those people? No. Okay, great. Get new friends. You know, like, I have a limiting belief about money. You know, I'm stuck at a certain point. Okay, I asked my boss for a raise. He said that I need to provide more value on the table, but I think that's bullshit. I'm going to go start my own business. And that's how some of the best businesses in the world get started is, you know, that choosing to, once again, prove it wrong through a different mechanism.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I love that of, just taking the action that proves it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. All right, brother. I think we're getting towards the end here.
All right, great.
So I really appreciate it. Okay, so I want to leave with one last question. And what do you think more of us should do in order to live our life with more lightness, more love, more joy?
I think more people would serve themselves better to treat their home environment as somewhere that truly lights them up and helps them to cultivate that energy. Because I think not enough people are really tapped into that. I think peace starts embodying peace is so much easier when you wake up with a full night's rest and you're in an environment that feels good. So you're not on a busy street like I am right now. This is really, really relevant for me right now. I mean, I'm renting a friend's apartment. It's amazing. So I just got to Austin, and it's on a busy street, and I noticed myself so dysregulated a lot of the time without really knowing why. Mm-hmm. So being in a space that feels beautiful, feels inspiring, feels peaceful, because we attune to what our environment is. Not always, but if the place we're spending a lot of our time is, chaotic, messy, doesn't inspire us, doesn't help us embody that sense of peace, then we're not going to feel it. So I always think about location, environment, the smells that I'm surrounded by, what I'm listening to. I used to listen to house music and drum and bass all the time, and like no wonder I was so frantic, right? Because it's like everything's at a fast pace. And just like what I'm looking at visually, what I'm seeing in my environment, how that makes me feel.
I love that. I'm gonna go home and make so many changes to my place right now. Thank you for my weekend activities.
You're welcome. Yeah.
All right. I really appreciated the convo. I learned a lot, and I just really appreciate you.
That was amazing. Thanks, bro.
Brother.
Thanks for having me.